Today we're going to talk about the Simply Posh Aurora Lights palette. I'm a little late in getting this up because I didn't receive the palette until launch day, but you guys expressed a lot of interest in seeing a video on this. Hopefully it can be helpful. I did receive this in PR from Simply Posh Cosmetics, and I am an affiliate with the brand. If you use my affiliate code SEEKINGSHIFTS, you will save 10% on your purchase. So with that in mind, I am a little bit biased towards the brand, but as always, I'm going to try to remain as fair and objective as possible when discussing this palette. This contains 18 eyeshadows, 12 mattes, 6 shimmers. They're all duochrome, and the pans are removable, so I love to see that. This retails for $45. If you use my affiliate code or any other affiliate's code, it will take off $4.50, bringing the palette to $40.50. So this color story overall seems to be very on par with the theme. It's a kind of literal interpretation of the Aurora lights, and I think you get a really good variety of tones and depths in here. I love the way the palette is laid out. You can kind of go down each column and create a look if you're not sure what to do. So the mattes, I've spent some more time with the Cozy Cabin palette that they sent me before, so I've built up more of an understanding of their matte formula. I do really enjoy it, and I think I described them in my last video as feeling almost silky, and I do feel like the mattes in this palette have that same quality. They're very quote-unquote flattering on the eye, and I've really enjoyed working with them. I would say they're a good matte formula, in my opinion, but of course that's subjective. So let's talk about the shimmers. Before I even get into the swatches, I do want to touch on something. I've dipped into this palette several times. I've created 4 looks now, and I've swatched it probably about 5 or 6 times, doing the arm swatches, back of the hand swatches, and also just I've swatched them a few times while I was trying to pick out comparison shades. During that time, almost every shade in here has developed a little bit of hard pan. As of right now, it doesn't appear to be really affecting the way they pick up with a finger or brush, but it's definitely there. If I was paying money for this palette, that is something I would want to know going into it, so I want to make you aware of that right at the top before I even describe the colors of the shimmers. I don't know if this is going to get any worse over time. Like I said, I've dipped into this several times. In terms of the lifespan of a palette, I'm sure I'm going to dip into it dozens more times. So I don't know how it's going to progress over time, and I can definitely keep you updated on that if you're interested. So first up, Dazzling. This one has a hot pink base, and it has blue sparkles that shift back into that pink. And at least on my skin tone, I really do see that hot pink base showing through. It's not one that kind of like disappears through the blue sparkles. I would say overall the particle size is on the smaller side. It is a bit textured, but it smooths out to a very sparkly finish. Next we have Dazzling. This has a semi-sheer mid-tone grape purple base, and it has blue sparkles that shift into purple and pink. This one is surprisingly unique. I mean, it depends who you ask, right? Because I'm one to really look for nuances and differences. I thought it would be an exact dupe to several other shades in my collection, but it's really not. I would say the texture and finish of this is pretty similar to Dazzling in that it has a relatively small particle size and it doesn't necessarily have a lot of texture. It smooths out to a sparkly finish. I think pretty much all of the shimmers have a similar formula and finish to them. Next one, Twinkling. This is another really unique one. This one has a lime green base and blue sparkles that also shift to pink. It seems to be kind of a common denominator in some of these shades. This one is also really unique. I didn't have any exact dupes to this. I thought 2 shades in my collection might be really similar, but you'll see in the comparisons they're not too similar. Again, that similar texture with a sparkly finish and a relatively small particle size. Next is Magical. So this one has, it appears to be a black and green or just straight up black base. And then it has sparkles that shift from green, blue, purple. This one is really pretty, and I like the amount of depth it can add. I have not used this one on my eyes yet, but I feel like it's one you'll probably want to use with mattes. I don't know how this would blend out along the edges, but nonetheless very pretty, and I think it's perfectly suited for a good amount of the mattes in here. Next is Light Show. I think this is my favorite shade in the palette. This is so beautiful. Okay, so this one has also a black or blackened base, not fully opaque. It reminds me so much of Gigabyte from the Pat McGrath Mothership 3 palette. I will put up a comparison because I forgot to include it in the comparisons later in this video. This one has that blackened base, and then it has this gold to olive green shift. It is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I felt so pretty when I had this on my eyes. Love this shade. I think this is really a standout in the palette. And then last we have Aurora, another one that I feel is pretty unique. This one has a semi-sheer warm lilac base and gold sparkles that kind of shift back into that lilac. So it's basically like a gold flip to it. Oh, I love that it's in the row with the gray shades because I think it looks so beautiful with those gray tones. And I put up a Reels tutorial with this. I loved how it looked on my eyes. That was the first look I created with the palette. And again, I think this is a good choice because you can pair it with the grays, you can pair it with the purples or the pinks. You can really tell that Simply Posh put a lot of thought into the pairings of the shimmers and mattes and making sure it's cohesive to create a variety of different looks with this palette. Okay, so let's get into the 2 looks I created with this palette. For the first look, I started with the shade Bright with a big blending brush, and I buffed that all over the inner half of my crease. Then I went into the shade Swirling with the same blending brush and buffed that all over the outer half of my crease, extended to the outer corner, and also brought it underneath my lower lash line on the outer half. Then I went into the shade Magnetic with a smaller blending brush and started to place that on the outer corner and map out the shape. Went in with a second layer, kind of stamped it on, and then buffed it into the other colors. Then I went into the shade Electric with my finger. As you can see, there is some hard pan, but it still picked up and applied fine. I'm not using any tacky base or anything. And it applied evenly on my eyes. Then I went to Dazzling. This is the one shade that did not develop hard pan. Brought that underneath my lower lash line and up into my swoop. And here is the final look. I like how this one came out. It's a little bit more colorful than I usually go, but I like all the different colors together. Okay, the second look was my favorite in person, but I don't know if it translates as well on camera. So I started with the shade Glow, and I buffed that all over my crease. The fluffy blending brush brought it beneath my lower lash line as well. Then I went into the shade Captivate with a smaller, more dense blending brush, and I blended that into the upper part of my outer half, slash kind of like blended it into my crease. Then with that same smaller, more dense blending brush, I went into the shade Night Sky and started to stamp that on my outer corner and slightly diffuse along the edges to create more of a cohesive blend. Then I went into the shade Light Show with my finger and I applied that all over my lid. Again, didn't feel like using any glitter primer today, so this is just on my bare lid with regular eye primer. And then I went into Aurora with a large pencil brush and put that on my inner corner into the swoop. I thought this would be good even though it's a purple shade because it has mostly a gold reflect. And here is a finished look. Again, I feel like it doesn't translate as well on camera, but I loved how this looked in person. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the comparison. So anything I received in PR will be indicated with an asterisk. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. Let me know, did you pick up this palette? Are you planning to? Is it going on your wish list? What are your thoughts? But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And other than that, I will see you in the next one. Bye!